Hello and welcome to Clearview Television News. We are reaching you live from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. First, the headlines. In the news, Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal promises justice to all parties as panel begins sitting in Abuja, the Nigerian capital. President Muhammadu Buhari inaugurates a Northeast Development Commission board, approves 10 billion naira for its takeoff. Western countries warn Iran of dire consequences if it fails to honor commitment to nuclear deal. I am Prudence Okonna with details of these and more. President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Zainab Okachua, who heads the five-man panel of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, has assured that justice would be done to all parties in the four petitions filed before the tribunal. Other members of the panel are Justices Abdul Aboki, Samuel Oseji, Joseph Ikeyu, and Peter Olabisige. The panel, which is conducting its first proceeding at the Court of Appeal headquarters in Abuja, will determine merit of four separate petitions that are challenging the declaration of President Buhari as the legitimate winner of the February 23rd presidential election. In her speech at the inaugural sitting of the tribunal, Okachua assured Nigerians and the international community that the tribunal will adhere to the Nigerian constitution, other relevant statutes, and international best practices. Justice Okachua maintained that all the parties would be accorded equal treatment by the tribunal, which she said would sit on a day-to-day basis.
Parties to hide the polity after any sitting by making a public analysis in the media as to what transpired in court. These proceedings should be treated as with any other low-profile case, where proceedings in court are not discussed publicly until a decision is pronounced by the court.
Becoming unfashionable to engage in war. The war that is recognized is the war in court, and I say it, I employ the word war advisedly.
However, the tribunal chairman warned parties to desist from discussing the matter in the media, saying the case should be treated as a low-profile matter that does not deserve analysis in public spaces. She said the court would be guided by constitution and international best practices to ensure that justice is done. Meanwhile, some women in Abuja on Wednesday protested the alleged failure of the Independent National Electoral Commission to obey the order of the Court of Appeal in Abuja permitting the People's Democratic Party and its presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar to inspect the materials used for the February 23rd poll. The women, numbering up to 40, held their protest on the premises of the Abuja Division of the Court of Appeal, venue of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, which held its inaugural sitting on Wednesday. The protest continued until sitting ended at about 1:20 p.m. A three-man bench of the Court of Appeal had since March 7th granted the petitioners, Atiku and PDP, the go-ahead to inspect the electoral materials in the custody of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Atiku and his party subsequently filed their petition on March 18th. The placard-bearing protesters claimed that INEC had yet to obey the March 7th order as of Wednesday, that is today. The women protesters chanted, among others, "Bring back our democracy. People are dying. We can no longer go to our farms. Lawyers, bring back our democracy." Some of the banners they held bore inscriptions like "The presidential election is a charade for APC. Declare Atiku winner. Bring back our mandate 2019. And INEC obey court order and release election materials as ordered by the court to Atiku and PDP. President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday inaugurated the Northeast Development Commission (NEDC) board for rebuilding of the zone ravaged by Boko Haram insurgency. Inaugurating the board before the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting held at the Council Chamber Presidential Villa Abuja, the president said that the establishment of the commission was in fulfillment of the pledge he made to the people adding that the aim was to rebuild the place for the successful takeoff of the commission. The president said 10 billion naira was provided in the 2019 budget, and he urged the commission to make judicious use of the fund. He also mandated the commission to conduct a comprehensive survey on the magnitude of damage. President Muhammadu Buhari explained that it was in appreciation of the massive electoral support he received from the zone in 2015 and 2019 that encouraged him to inaugurate the board. The Senate had in April confirmed the appointment of Major General Paul Tarifa, retired, as chairman of the Northeast Development Commission. The Senate had also confirmed the appointment of Mohammed Al-Kali as the managing director and chief executive officer of the NEDC alongside 9 members. This followed the presentation of a report by Chairman Senate Committee on Special Duties, Senator Abdulaziz Yako, on confirmation of nominations into the board of the commission. The federal government has approved the building of a new seaport in Warri at a cost of $3.9 billion. Contract has also been awarded for the rail connecting Abuja with Warri and Itakpe and Abuja. Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi, who disclosed this in Abuja, said the rail would also link the new seaport in Warri. He reported that about $45 billion would be needed to complete rail development in the country. He said that the country would have been covered with rail once Lagos-Kano, Port Harcourt, Maiduguri, Lagos-Calabar and Abuja-Warri rail lines were constructed. Senate President Bukola Saraki has described recent moves by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to probe him as politically motivated and a witch hunt. Mr. Saraki said the anti-graft agency was only investigating matters that were already settled. The Senate President was reacting to fresh moves by EFCC to probe his earnings as Kwara State Governor, a position he held from 2003 to 2011. In a letter to Kwara State government, the EFCC demanded a breakdown of Mr. Saraki's income, as well as his entitlements as governor of the state. The anti-graft agency is investigating Mr. Saraki for an alleged case of conspiracy, abuse of office, misappropriation of public funds, theft and money laundering. On Monday, the EFCC in a statement said the current probe of Mr. Saraki was not in connection to his recent appointment as International Human Rights Commission ambassador, as reported by some media houses. In a statement signed by Yusuf Olani Yonu, his media aide, Mr. Saraki said the latest move by EFCC is less than noble and a mere witch hunt exercise aimed at settling scores laced with malicious and partisan motives. The statement released on Tuesday noted that the tenure of Mr. Saraki as Kwara State Governor had been investigated and the new exercise was only a repetition. The district head of Bale Gudu local government area of Sokoto State, Ibrahim Aliyu, has been killed by suspected bandits. The 82-year-old district head, who was shot in the head, was met lying in a pool of blood reciting Kalmat before he finally died. Honorable Farouk Bale, member representing the area at the State House of Assembly, who confirmed the attack, said they were all shocked because Bale used to be the most peaceful area in the state. The late district head, who was survived by 2 wives, 8 children and many grandchildren, had been buried in accordance with Islamic rites. Bale is the headquarters of Gudu local government area of Sokoto State, which had been peaceful before Wednesday's attack. Governor Samuel Otom of Benue State on Tuesday said over 680,000 people were displaced and property worth over 400 billion naira destroyed by suspected Fulani herdsmen in the state. Otom, who spoke while delivering the Professor Miriam Ikeji and a lecture at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka, said the gangsters also destroyed farmlands. The governor said the passage of the open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment law in the state led to the frosty relationship between him and the federal government. He said within 12 months, no fewer than 4 commissioners of police were posted to the state, with some spending less than 2 months before being replaced, noting that the motive was obviously to shop for a commissioner of police that would bend the rules in favor of the herdsmen against poor farmers. He added Benue has been thrown into humanitarian and economic crisis of numerous proportions, with homes, schools, churches, health centers, security posts, roads, bridges, farms and other sources of livelihoods destroyed. He insisted that Nigeria needed a grazing law that would encourage ranching as a solution to the herdsmen-farmers conflict. You're watching Clearview Television News. We'll be back after this timeout. You're welcome back. The planned protest on Wednesday by the Nigeria Labour Congress against the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, over his failure to inaugurate the Board of National Social Insurance Trust Fund with Frank Okori as the chairman took a new twist as workers were attacked by suspected thugs at the minister's house in Asokoro. The thugs clashed with the protesters who were chanting slogans in front of the residence of the minister in Asokoro area of Abuja. Clearview TV's Anita Patrick has more.
This is what the supposed peaceful protest by the Nigerian Labour Congress to the residence of the Minister of Labour and Employment turned out to be. People running for their lives as violence erupted following an altercation between supposed thugs loyal to the minister and members of the Labour Union. Many sustained injuries and were taken to the National Hospital in Abuja for treatment. President of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Ayuba Waba, and his General Secretary described the scene as barbaric, accusing the minister of hiring thugs to attack them.
We are in a democratic era. The freedom for all Nigerians to freely assemble for the purpose of protecting their rights and interests is guaranteed by the Constitution. If a federal minister under a dispensation that understands the rudiment of the rule of law will then take laws into his hand because picketing is legal. Our labor laws allow workers to picket. Our labor laws allow us to exercise our rights to protest when policies are not there. And in this instance, we are protesting when people continue to feast with our funds at the Social Insurance Trust Fund. We are not going to relent until the needful is actually done.
It's unfortunate that we even had police, uniformed police, around, and some of them armed, and other security services. And they did nothing. They were just looking at these thugs as if they did not have right to protect citizens.
Commenting on the attacks on peaceful protesters, the president of the National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Nupeng, said 2 of his drivers were missing following the attacks by the alleged thugs at the minister's residence, noting if by 6 p.m. of Wednesday the missing drivers were not found, necessary actions would be taken to effect their rescue.
2 tanker drivers that drove tankers there, as we speak, we cannot account for them. No. And if by 6 p.m. today, if we don't see our members, nationwide action will take place as from tomorrow. By 6 p.m. this evening, we cannot see our members. Nupeng will declare a nationwide action as from tomorrow.
The Labour Union says it expects President Buhari to prevail on the Labour and Employment Minister to do the needful by inaugurating the NSITF board in order to forestall such occurrences. Anita Patrick reporting for Clearview Television.
The Not Too Young to Run movement on Tuesday held a program tagged Convergence 2.0 in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. The event, which was a gathering of young elected legislators, had the theme Leadership, Power and Politics. According to the organizers, Convergence 2.0 presents an opportunity for the newly elected young lawmakers to reflect on Nigeria's 20 years of democracy with a view to designing a new democratic and leadership model that promotes institutional reforms. Clearview TV's Anita Patrick was there and now reports.
Today, 340 days after the signing of the Not Too Young to Run bill into law, those who spearheaded the movement say they have 17 under 30-year-olds who won their election into their respective state houses of assembly, and out of the 991 seats in the state houses of assembly, over 200 will be occupied by young elected lawmakers. This, according to them, is democracy taking shape, as no nation cannot talk about democracy without young people. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, while addressing the participants, said Nigerian youths are not just the leaders of tomorrow, but also today's leaders who are competent for today's leadership.
As you have known by now, the law is not designed as a cutthroat competition between the young people and the old, but an opportunity to build a consensus, a sort of governance symphony where all energies are deployed for our common good.
British High Commissioner Katrina Lang and the Executive Director of Yaga Africa, Samson Itodo, charged the 300 newly elected legislators that the responsibility is on their shoulders to ensure that integrity, fairness, inclusion, and accountability become the hallmarks of all their tenure. They added that they might have needed support in order to contest the 2019 elections, but come 2023, they should be prepared to run on their own record of achievements, adding that though it might be tough, they should be determined to be part of the change, however incremental it is.
It's also about inclusion, ensuring that a wide range of voices are heard, and it's about people being active in political participation. And it's really about how the youth of Nigeria, a very large proportion of the population of Nigeria, will help lead the way. And it's specifically in the next few days about how you as leaders are going to lead at a very personal level. What's your personal contribution to make to Nigeria's democracy?
We want to see leaders who will hold the executive to account in performing oversight, quality oversight, and then also the quality of our legislations really need to improve at different levels. And so when we talk about Not Too Young to Run, we're talking about leaders that will provide the excellent public leadership that Nigeria needs.
Some of the newly elected legislators, for their part, said they were set to bring new strategies to the table in the 9th Assembly following the passion spurred them to represent their constituencies, noting that they are set for good leadership despite the challenges in the Nigerian political space.
It's not about you getting more promoted, It's about you acting on the capacity of how reason why the people have really voted you. It's about you acting the capacity of what you promise the electorate. And it's about you establishing the solution in order to reform the society.
I think I'm quite zealous and keen on change. I want to see how we can do things differently, how we can push forward laws, and even by example of, as a public official, how we can do things differently to inspire others and also show that yes, it's possible that in Nigeria things can work.
Through the convergence, the Not Too Young to Run movements and Yaga Africa are mobilizing a new breed of visionary public leaders to sanitize electoral politics, obtain political power through the ballot, and provide accountable, responsive, and innovative leadership. Anita Patrick, reporting for Clearview Television.
Nigeria's transportation sector holds the greatest potentials for supporting the federal government's economic recovery and growth plan. Speaking on Clearview TV's breakfast show, Hello Africa, a transport consultant, Emmanuel John, says if the problem of rail transportation is properly addressed, 1/3 of Nigeria's transport issues would be taken care of. John strongly believes that increased public and private investments in the critical rail and road segments would see the transport sector become a key enabler for diversification of the economy through non-oil growth. The report. Nigeria has seen much of its transport network fall into despair in the wake of unprecedented recent economic population growth, as well as decades of underinvestments in critical transport infrastructure, although rising passenger and cargo demand continues to strain nearly every segment of Nigeria's transport sector between 2017 and 2018. The country has made commendable progress in alleviating urban congestion, investing in critical infrastructure projects, and increasing private sector participation in the development of the transport arteries. However, there are still some lingering issues, particularly around population growth. John says with the population growth, if adequate infrastructure is not put in place to accommodate the vehicular population, in some years to come, Nigerian cities will be grounded.
Within 20 years, Lagos had grown 138% in population, New York had grown only 8%, and Tokyo had grown only 5%. But Africa generally and then Nigeria have no resources to develop adequate infrastructure to cope with the pace of population growth. Neither do we have the intention, the political will, to invest adequately in transportation to meet the demands. So my emphasis in that book was that if we don't do something now, in the next 20 years, our cities will be grounded. There will be no infrastructure to accommodate the required vehicular population.
To tackle issues within the transportation sector in Nigeria, John wants the government to build infrastructure, invest in ICT among others, to foster national economic growth and development.
To sit down, draw with input of experts, not just relying on what government knows. We need government to sit down with the private sector, with advocates and researchers, and draw a clear roadmap. For this and this and this, this is what we are doing. In the next 5 years, we'll be here. In the next 10 years, we'll be here. In the next 20 years, we'll be here. In the next 50 years, this is where we'll be. Okay. Number 2, next to a comprehensive plan, is a vote. What I call a vote, a financial vote to kick off the system. A lot of money is needed. Elsewhere, where transport is given full attention, you don't build transport infrastructure to make gain. It's a social investment. For instance, there is no amount of passenger that the rail system in London will carry that they will ever make the money they spent on the infrastructure. So for that reason, government need to close its eyes, bring out huge amount, and develop sufficient infrastructure system that will kick off the business. That includes lighting system, talking about electricity. That includes building of resilient infrastructure in the airports, roads, seaports, investing in ICT, liberalize the market to enable anybody who wants to come in. Remove all of the barriers you put around. Too many roadblocks that makes you look important. Remove them. Let people come in when they want. Put their money in and make their money when they are going. But that is after government have succeeded in building infrastructure, because without infrastructure, no investor will come in.
For Nigeria to cope with the way the world is moving, He called on the federal government to sign the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which contains two major transport components, one on developing aviation in Africa and the Protocol on Free Movement of Persons, considered to foster the ease of doing business within the African continent. The president of ECOWAS Commission, Jean-Claude, has been reaffirmed the readiness of the Commission to provide support for the enhancement of the power of ECOWAS Parliament and other issues relating to regional integration. The President reaffirmed the Commission's readiness Parliament at the opening ceremony of the first ordinary session of the 4th Legislature of the ECOWAS Parliament 2019 in Abuja. Our correspondent Ifeoluwa Ishola was there and now reports.
Ceremony of the first ordinary session of the 4th Legislature of the ECOWAS Parliament, the Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, Mustafa Siselu, appreciated President Muhammadu Buhari for not only giving the Parliament plot of land to build the Parliament building, but also pledging to build the house. He further said the foundation-laying ceremony of the Parliament will be made in the course of the 4th Legislative Parliament. He also a detailed program of the session.
First ordinary session of 2019 to discuss matters of key importance to our community. Indeed, apart from the consideration of the reports of the localized meetings already held and the conventional sessions of country reports, presentations, we shall also consider the terms of reference of the parliamentary missions slated for the last quarter of the year. Naturally, we shall consider as part of a priority the report from the ECOWAS institutions. One of the key activities of this session will also be the speech of the President of the Commission on the state of affairs of the community. Honorable guests, dear colleagues, our session will also hold interactive sessions with important partners, namely the United Nations High Commission for Refugees to discuss the regional conference held in Dakar on the Kampala Convention, as well as the retreat of the ambassadors of ECOWAS, a meeting with NGO, International Campaign Against Nuclear Weapons. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, session would also discuss is coming on the heels of legislative elections in Togo, Guinea-Bissau and Benin. Legislative elections held in Guinea-Bissau should of our countries.
So speaking was the president of ECOWAS Commission, Jean-Claude, who said the sessions opened in a context where the region is going through several challenges and affirms the Commission's support in tackling these challenges.
Today's session opens in a context in which this region is beset by several challenges. On the political front, our region continues to be confronted with the need to consolidate democracy and conduct peaceful elections. We welcome the successful conduct of presidential elections this year in two of our member states, namely the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Republic of Senegal. ECOWAS will continue to strengthen its intervention mechanisms in order to support the conduct peaceful elections in all member states.
The ECOWAS Parliament, also known as the Community Parliament, is a forum for dialogue, consultation, and consensus for representatives of the people of West Africa with the aim of promoting integration. The 4th Legislature of May 2019 Ordinary Session of the ECOWAS Parliament will run through to 3rd of June 2019. Ifeoluwa Ishola, reporting for Clearview Television.
You're watching Clearview Television News. We'll be back after this time out. Welcome back. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, in partnership with Unity Bank and the National Cotton Association of Nigeria, has flagged off the distribution of seeds, input supplies to cotton farmers for the 2019 planting season. The distribution is part of the Anchor Borrowers Program, a CBN agricultural development finance initiative operated as an on-lending scheme with participating financial institutions packaged to channel financing support to beneficiaries in the sector. Commenting on the development, the Executive Director, Corporate Planning and Compliance, Usman Abdul Kadir, said CBN is partnering with Unity Bank on account of the lender's strong participation in the Anchor Borrowers Program aimed at rebuilding customers' confidence, alleviating poverty through food and cash crops production to make Nigeria self-sufficient in food and diversifying the economy. He further said Unity Bank's strategy for agriculture is deep-rooted in financing primary production, agricultural processing, as well as commodity trading. Abdul Kadiri also noted that the bank supports agricultural mechanization on agricultural services and the procurement of inputs and implements. The national president of Nakotan Anibe Achimugo said the Unity Bank CBN program would assist members in sourcing the right seeds to be delivered to the cotton farmers at the right time. He also said the association produced estimated seed cotton of between 60,000 and 80,000 tons in 2018, hoping that this figure will be surpassed in 2019. The group managing director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Maikanti Baru, has restated the commitment of the corporation to reduce the cost of crude oil production in the nation's oil and gas industry to ensure economic growth and development. Declaring open the Nigerian pavilion at this year's Offshore Technology Conference in Houston, United States, the NNPC General Managing Director said, by participating at the forum, Nigeria is sharing ideas with global players to ensure oil is produced at the least possible cost, asserting that the lower the oil price, the higher the economic growth for the country, while describing conferences such as the OTC as an avenue where local entrepreneurs work together with each other global experts towards building capacity in the country. Baru stressed that it is extremely important for Nigerian companies to continue to participate because if you don't touch base with technology, you can't develop. Baru, who was represented by the Chief Operating Officer upstream, Bello Rabiu, noted that the corporation is working towards acquiring seismic data using 2D, 3D, 4D and other latest technology in the industry. He said since 1993, offshore development in Nigeria has been tremendous, adding that it is great to see several Nigerian companies now producing offshore in Nigeria. StarTimes says it has invested more than $220 million in Nigeria in a bid to become the market leader and offer quality digital satellite services to the citizens. The new Chief Executive Officer, StarTimes Nigeria, David Zhang, who stated this in Lagos, also said that the company currently employs over 1,000 Nigerians directly and more than 3,000 indirectly through its dealers. Zhang explained that StarTimes is negotiating for broadcasting rights for the upcoming African Cup of Nations, adding that it is also interested in bringing the much-cherished English Premier League to Nigerian viewers when the rights of the current holders expire. He said that due to the pay TV's partnership with the Nigerian Television Authority, it has free-to-air access, stressing that Nigerians will get good return for their money during this tenure, as others before him have gone. According to him, the bidding rights of English Premier League and others do not happen every year. We had Bundesliga rights for 3 years before it expired in 2018 and had to renew it. We are interested in broadcasting English Premier League to Nigerians. The president of the 73rd session of the United Nations General Assembly, Maria Fernanda, says her visit to Nigeria is to strengthen the ties and importance multilateralism to solve global challenges. The president made this known at her official visit to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Abuja. Our correspondent Ife Oluwaishola was there and now reports.
The visit of the 73rd President of the United Nations General Meeting, Maria Fernanda, to the office of the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Oyehama, was to, among other things, brainstorm on possible ways of ensuring that our visits profit both parties. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Oyehama, in his address, intimated the visiting president of areas the country is looking up to the United Nations for support.
Looking to have the support of the United Nations and your support in particular to address this challenge. And one of the mechanisms or strategies we have identified is the recharging of the lake. This is going to be a very capital-intensive effort, and something in the order of 40 to 50 billion US dollars estimated. And clearly we're going to have to leverage on the international community because these are huge resources. And again, we look for your support. And also the youth. We have a youth bulge in this country, demographic challenges. In about 30 years, we're predicted to be, or projected to be, the third most populous country in this world. And with the economic challenges we're facing and the rate of economic growth, this is going to be a real challenge. And here again, we have to, together with the UN and other partners, really address this issue. Of course, economic growth is very much part of the agenda of this government. Also the issue of disabilities and support for the disabled.
In a remark, Maria Fernanda spoke of Nigeria's transition as the president of the 74th session of the United Nations General Assembly and the important role Nigeria plays in regional peace and security.
I am here to further strengthen the ties between Nigeria and the United Nations, and of course, as the minister was saying, only avenue, the only way that we can tackle, address and solve the global challenges that are impacting lives and livelihoods across the world, including, of course, climate change, as you very well mentioned. I'm also here to acknowledge and recognize the central role of this country for multilateralism, for the United Nations. You know, Nigeria is very well known at the UN in New York and Vienna and Geneva. He's a very capable, strong member of the Human Rights Council of the United Nations, doing a great job. Nigeria has led the establishment of the International Day for Education on the 24th of January, if I'm not mistaken. It's really a prominent player in the multilateral arena.
The General Assembly is one of the 6 main organs of the United Nations, with only one having equal representation from member states, even as Nigeria looks forward to the presidency of the General Assembly. Ifeoluwa Ishola, reporting for Clearview Television.
The Food and Agriculture Organization's representative in Nigeria, Sofian Kuroma, has reaffirmed their commitment in supporting the government's initiatives towards meeting its obligation of hunger-free and assured food and nutrition security across the country. Sofian stated this at the launching of Nigeria Country Programming Framework and celebration of its 40 years presence in Nigeria in Abuja. Ifeoluwa Ishola was there and now brings us the details.
The launching of the Country Programming Framework for Nigeria 2018-2022 describes the Food and Agriculture Organization's medium-term assistance priorities and objectives to be achieved over the 5 years period of the country's programming cycle. Speaking at the event, the Minister of Agriculture, Audu Ogbe, outlined the major dangers facing the agriculture sector in Nigeria.
There is hardly climate change and agriculture. But beyond that, there is also the danger of human habitation. I'm glad it's here, and I want to make this point that the new age of festivals is that of cheap ferry everywhere in the country. But people are really coming down to this firework, even for export. Most people don't realize that the data is dangerous to our health.
Also speaking, the Food and Agriculture Organization's representative in Nigeria, Sofian Koroma, identified the 5 focus pillars for the country programming framework for Nigeria.
The first one of this is to strengthen national food and nutrition security to enhance nutrition sensitive and climate smart food systems. The second pillar is to support appropriate and operationally effective agricultural policy and regulatory framework. So when we're talking about food safety, and strategies, quite earlier. The third one is to support Nigeria's economic diversification agenda and the promotion of decent employment for youth and women. The fourth pillar is to improve efficient and sustainable management of natural resources and ecosystems. The fifth pillar is to enhance disaster risk reduction, resilience building, and emergency management towards strengthening the humanitarian development nexus. This was principally looking at the northeast, but also along the Green Belt, which the minister mentioned, and now we're seeing threats in areas in the rivers in the east and southern part of the country, which also falls into this. These priorities are well in line with Nigeria's development objectives and are captured in the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan and the Agricultural Promotion Policy and other relevant policies and strategies.
Achieving food security for all is at the heart of the Food and Agriculture Organization's effort to make sure that people have regular access to enough high-quality food to live active and healthy lives. Ifeoluwa Ishola, reporting for Clearview Television.
You're watching Clearview Television News. We'll be back after this time out. Welcome back. And on the foreign scene, anger over corruption, the faltering economy and land reform are key issues as South Africans vote in the 6th democratic national election since apartheid ended 25 years ago. Young people queuing to vote have been speaking of their difficulties in finding jobs, with unemployment at 27%. The African National Congress, which led the fight against apartheid, has governed the country since 1994. But its support has eroded as large inequalities have remained. There are concerns about voter apathy, despite more than 26 million people registering to vote, the highest number in South Africa's history. Local surveys suggest that 6 million people under the age of 30 are not on the electoral roll. Apartheid, in place from 1948 to 1994, legalized racial discrimination, privileging white people, and land ownership has remained a contentious issue. The white minority still owns disproportionately more land than the black majority. The EFF has led the charge in trying to change this. Western countries participating in the Iran nuclear deal have warned Tehran there will be serious consequences if it takes steps that violate its terms. The UK, France, and Germany said they would still back the deal as long as Iran upheld its commitments. It follows Iran's move to suspend some commitments now the US has left the deal and begun imposing new sanctions. The 2015 accord was intended to curb Iran's nuclear ambitions in return for relief from sanctions, but its economy has been badly hit by the new sanctions policy of the Donald Trump administration. The value of Iran's currency has dropped to record lows and its annual inflation rate has quadrupled. Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif said its latest move was within its rights under the deal. He has set a 60-day deadline for European nations to act to protect it from the U.S. sanctions and threatened to resume the production of more highly enriched uranium if they do not do so. Speaking on a visit to London, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said Iran's latest statement was intentionally ambiguous. Mr. Pompeo said that although the U.S. remained on the same side as its Western allies on countering Iranian influence, it had a different view on the nuclear deal, and he indicated the U.S. would act if trade with Iran continued beyond humanitarian aid. Democrats in the U.S. House of Representatives are about to vote on whether to hold Attorney General William Barr in contempt of Congress. The Judiciary Committee initiated the proceedings when Mr. Barr refused to submit an unredacted version of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report. President Donald Trump has hit back by asserting executive privilege over the report, shielding it from public view. The White House accused Democrats of a blatant abuse of power, but House Judiciary Chairman Gerald Nadler said the Trump administration's refusal to provide the full Mueller report to Congress amounts to a constitutional crisis. The New York Democrat said his party had no choice but to move forward with a contempt vote. Otherwise, we have a monarchy. The redacted 448-page Mueller report released last month did not determine there was a criminal conspiracy between Moscow and the president's 2016 election campaign, but it detailed a series of attempts by Mr. Trump to impede the special counsel's investigation. For Mr. Barr to actually face the prospects of charges, the entire Democratic-controlled House, including its Republican lawmakers, would have to vote on the measure. The vote may be largely symbolic, as it is seen as unlikely that the Department of Justice would actually indict America's top law official with criminal contempt. Asia Bibi, a Pakistani Christian woman who spent years on death row after being convicted of blasphemy, has left the country, officials confirmed. Her conviction was overturned last year by the Supreme Court. She was originally convicted in 2010 after being accused of insulting the Prophet Muhammad in a row with her neighbors. Asia Bibi has always maintained her innocence in a case that has polarized Pakistan. Pakistani government officials did not reveal her destination or say when she left, but her lawyer Saif-ul-Maluk said she had already arrived in Canada, where two of her daughters are understood to have been granted asylum. Asia Noreen, commonly known as Asia Bibi, was kept a secret location while arrangements were made for her to leave the country. The Supreme Court's quashing of her sentence last October led to violent protests by religious hardliners who support strong blasphemy laws, while more liberal sections of society urged her release. You're watching Clearview Television News. We now join our sports correspondent, Tolu Oguntimeyi, for the latest in the world of sports.
There it is. What a shot from Tiger. And the Jamaican juggernaut scores his first goal for a professional side. And
hello and welcome to the sporting segment of Clearview TV News. I'm Oguntimeyin Tolulokwe Oguntimeyin. The federal government has charged Amaju Pinnick, president of Nigeria Football Federation, NFF, and 4 others with with alleged misappropriation of $8.4 million belonging to the federation. The money was said to have been paid by the Federation International Football Association (FIFA) to the NFF as appearance fee for the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. Okoyo Bono Obla, the Special Presidential Investigative Panel and Recovery (SPIP), filed a 17-count charge against the defendant before the Federal High Court in Abuja on Tuesday. The accused persons outside Pinnick are Sheyi Akinwumi, First Vice President, Shehu Diko, Second Vice President, Mohammed Sanusi, General Secretary, and Ahmed Yusuf Fresh, NFF Executive Member. in the case file marked C/ABJ/CR/93/2019. The 5 persons are accused of failing and neglecting to declare their assets. The defendants are also accused of moving the cash belonging to the NFF without the consent of the Federation. Pinnick and his board were also alleged to have the sum of $650,000 pocketed meant for a friendly match against Bolivia in Uyo in 2015, given by the former governor of Akwa Ibom State, Godswill Akpabio. The Nigeria Football Federation NFF has alleged that the reported count arraignment of its top officials is an act of conspiracy and a mission to destroy the federation, even as it denies the 17 count charges slammed on it by the federal government over monumental misappropriation and maladministration in the Glass House. Tuesday, the federal government charged the NFF, Amaju Pinnick, NFF Secretary Sanusi Mohammed, the first Vice President Sheyi Akinwumi, and the second Vice President Shehu Diko, and Executive Member Yusuf Frej, with alleged misappropriation of $8,400,000 belonging to the football house. The defendants were also accused of moving dishonestly and intentionally the sum of about 4 billion naira belonging to NFF without the consent of NFF. However, NFF, in a press release on Wednesday, signed by its head of media and publicity, Sulaiman Yahya Kwade, said the orchestrated media blaze about the existence of such charges is nothing but the desperate and malicious effort of Chief Okoye Obla, led Special Presidential Investigative Panel, to lend itself as an instrument of cheap blackmail in the fight for political leadership of NFF, adding that the Federation is in court already against the SPIB chairman. Out of favor Super Eagles forward Kelechi Iheanacho has been reported to be on the radar of West London club West Ham, as reports indicate that club has entered into talks of a possible loan switch for him ahead of 2019-2020 Premier League season. With just 9 starts in 30 EPL games, it is understood that the Foxes are hoping to cash in on the Nigerian, who has struggled to command a regular playing share at the club since his arrival last season. However, reports say that West Ham manager Manuel Pellegrini has been in constant touch with Iheanacho with the hope of a summer loan switch in the summer. With the loan of a possible loan switch in the summer, the 22-year-old enjoyed the finest club football of his career under the Chilean, netting 12 goals across all competitions in his first season at the Etihad Stadium. Pellegrini's departure, however, saw the 2013 FIFA Under-17 Golden Ball winner suffer a dip in form, as he was mostly overlooked by Pep Guardiola before his eventual sale to Leicester City at the beginning of 2017-2019 season. El Kaneme Warriors has been imposed several sanctions, including a 3-day closure of their stadium to fans following disturbances that occurred during and after the match day 17 fixture against Go Round FC of Port Harcourt. The league management company LMC, in an exercise of summary jurisdiction, notice signed by Saliu Abubakar, the chief operating officer, charged the Maiduguri club for breaches of sections of the framework and rules, including Rule B13.18 and B13.52.2. The charge read, "You are in breach of the framework and rules of Nigeria Professional Football League, in that on Sunday 5th May 2019, in the course of your match day 17 fixture, El Kaneme Warriors vs. Go Round, some of your supporters severely threw objects including water sachets, plastic bottles and stones towards match officials and towards the field of play." In the second charge, El Kaneme Warriors was also found in breach of Rule B13.52.2 for failing to ensure restriction of access by unauthorized persons to restricted areas, as some supporters gain access to this dressing room and interfere with the referee. President of Nigeria Wrestling Federation, Honorable Daniel Egali, has called for early and adequate preparation for the country's wrestlers ahead of the 12th All-African Games in Rabat, Morocco, which will be staged from 19 to 31st August this year. The world and Olympic champion are confident wrestling can deliver no fewer than 10 gold medals for Team Nigeria at the Games, giving early camping for the athletes. After overcoming financial difficulties in March, Egali led the contingent of 16 Nigerian wrestlers to the 2019 African Senior Wrestling Championship in Hammamet, Tunisia, where they won a total of 13 medals, including 6 gold, 2 silver, and 5 bronze medals, with the female team voted the best at the tournament. Nigeria won the wrestling event at the last All-African Games in Brazzaville, Congo, 4 years ago, claiming 19 medals comprising 9 gold, 5 silver and 5 bronze medals. Chelsea have lost their appeal against FIFA's decision to ban them from signing players during the next 2 transfer windows. The only change to the ban until the end of January 2020 is that the Blues can sign under 16 players from the UK during the suspension period. FIFA took action against Chelsea after an investigation into their signing of foreign players of under 18. The club can now appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. The FIFA Appeal Committee has decided to partially uphold the appeal lodged by Chelsea. FIFA said in a statement, this ban applied to club as a whole, with the exception of women's and full-star teams, and did not prevent the release of players. FIFA said it found breaches in 29 cases out of 92 investigated. And to the UEFA Champions League, Barcelona striker Luis Suarez said his side looked like schoolboys for Liverpool's winning goal in a Champions League semi-final second leg. The Reds won 4-0 at Anfield, with Divock Origi scoring the winner from Trent Alexander-Arnold's quick corner to overturn a 3-0 first leg deficit. We have to be ready for all the criticism that is going to rain down on us now, Suarez said. We are very sad. We are in a lot of pain. Barca had looked in control after winning 3-0 at Nou Camp. Origi gave the Reds early hope at Anfield, and after in substitute Jorginho Wijnaldum scored 2 quick-fire goals to level the tie. The winner came while Barca's defense was still getting ready for a corner which Alexander-Arnold took quickly, allowing the Atlet Origi to pounce and score for their 4th goal. We look like schoolboys, said former Liverpool player Suarez, who was booed all night by his old fans. It was Barcelona's 2nd Champions League collapse in consecutive season. Last season, Roma beat them 3-0 in the quarterfinal second leg to knock them out on away goals. Barca have won La Liga both seasons under Valverde, but they have not reached a Champions League final since 2015. And that's it from the sporting segment of Clearview TV News. I'm Oguntimehin, Tolulakwa Oguntimehin.
Thank you, Oguntimehin, for that. And before we go, look at our top stories. The head of the 5-member Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal, Justice Zainab Bokuchua, has promised justice to all parties as the panel formally commenced its sitting on Wednesday in Abuja. President Muhammadu Buhari has inaugurated the board of the Northeast Development Commission and approved 10 billion naira for its successful takeoff. And we also told you that Western countries have warned Iran of dire consequences if it fails to honor commitment to nuclear deals signed with the United States. And that's the news. Remember that you can subscribe to our YouTube channel via Clearview TV, like us on Facebook via Clearview Television, follow us on Twitter at Clearview Online, follow us on Instagram at Clearview TV_NG. You can also watch Clearview TV on Night Concert with any free-to-air decoder. For details, contact your local installer. I am Prudence Okuna. Many thanks for watching.